Welcome to another episode of the CullRoom. Today, we are joined by James Morris, a wedding photographer with 12 years of experience in this industry. Over the past 12 years, James has built his career around capturing real moments, navigating the unpredictability of wedding days, and delivering those beautiful galleries under tight deadlines. But behind every finished gallery is a huge amount of work, from shooting thousands of images to culling, then editing, and getting those final photographs to the hands of the couple. Today, we are going to take you behind the scenes of the entire process. We will talk about James' journey into the wedding photography, like what a typical day really looks like, the challenges photographers really face in this industry behind the scenes, and how his workflow has evolved over the years. And of course, we'll also dive deep into AI powered culling, editing, and his workflow. James will show us how he uses filter pixel and especially deep cull to approach the culling process, of how technology can fit into the workflow of an experienced wedding photographer without taking away the photographer's creative eye. So, without waiting further, let's invite James to the cull room.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey James, welcome to the cull room. It's nice to see you here again.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, man. I'm excited to catch up. Excited to share a little bit more about Filter Pixel, have a good chat with you guys. And it's been a very, very interesting year on the platform of culling and editing and AI and all that kind of jazz in the world. So I'm excited to obviously have a chat with you guys and just share a little bit more, like you said, a little bit more about my journey, my workflow, and obviously the
100%.
usage of
I, I,
Filter
I
Pixel.
just want to say, James, like you have been in this wedding industry for so long. Like we already know that you have been here for 12 plus years. I want to understand, like, this has been so long, like 12 years or so long. Like, what first pulled you into wedding photography, and how did you land your first opportunity to shoot weddings professionally?
To be fair, I think like the where it all started, it never started as like I want to go shoot weddings. It all started with looking at prints of like old prints of like family members and things like that. Obviously, you look back, you sit down as a family, and you go through all the details. And then obviously, I started to get a little bit. Oh, this is nice. It's nice looking back on memories of family members, and sometimes you take like holiday photos, like when you print the digitals out, and you're 6x4s, 7x5s, and it was nice to see that obviously you had family members that maybe not here anymore, or family members that still are here but a little bit more grown. And it was nice just to see that part of the journey, from the start of life towards obviously the latter of it. And obviously moving into the wedding world, it's something that I kind of wanted to create those moments, those memories for other people. Now, as you probably know, and anybody that's watching this back live, you'll know that it's hard to actually get into the photo industry being a photographer. It's one of the hardest things. Not many people give you opportunities, and people don't always give you the time of day to be able to do what you want to be doing. So I think the way that I got into the industry was kind of second shooting, mainly for people that I was friends with. They were like, "Hey, do you want to come along and shoot a wedding?" I was like, "Gratefully, yes." I don't know a lot. I've got a little bit of photography background, but it was more into school photography. So it's a completely different setup. I had kind of like I was used to like the same settings doing school photography and doing like photo booths and things like that. So I had a little bit of knowledge going into weddings, but it's a completely different ball game. So it kind of all started when one of my friends said to me, "Hey, do you want to come and shoot a wedding with me?" I was like, "Cool, let's do it." I was like, "Let's do it." I don't know much, but you learn a lot. You learn a lot in those few days. You do the weddings, especially the first like 1, 2, or 3. You learn the pace of the day, and you learn so much more aspects about how light changes, how the flow of the day is different. So for me, that's kind of where it all started. And then obviously one wedding became two, two became three became four, and things kind of just blossomed from there. So that's kind of the journey of where I came from. But yeah, man, it's been eventful, and there's been a lot of learning curves. Most people think you have to get everything right first time. Most people think that you're expected to know absolutely everything when you first start. But I think it's important just to keep going. There'll be ups and downs and ups and downs. And obviously, we're going to speak about where you get to, obviously, when you get to a good workflow and a great workflow, obviously incorporating it with Filter Pixel. But for me, it's about staying consistent staying in the game, and just refining your skill set. We're never kind of a finished article. Can always learn and can always get better.
What a journey! What a journey! And I would say that starting like a second shooter, and then just continuing that journey with that same motivation to be, getting those 12 years in, and then learning through each and every year as an experience is really commendable. And I think that is what the game of patience is. Like, you have to be there, you have to be on the ground, you have to keep learning and keep growing. You have to keep changing your way of working. The way you see things, it needs to evolve over time. And I think that's great to hear. I'm really curious. You do weddings. Definitely start with family photography, as you said, but you do weddings now. What does a typical wedding day actually look like for you, from arriving to the venue and then preparing your gear to shooting the wedding and eventually delivering the final gallery? I would like to add that I've seen your stories where you are like, before the sunrise, you are actually in the car and moving on the
Yeah.
trying to there are some sheeps in front of you, but you are still new.
Yeah, it's definitely eventful. A lot of them, like I said, I've done weddings all over the UK, and I've done something out of Sky. I've travelled 13 hours there, 13 hours back. So there's many variables. Some days you set off earlier, sometimes you get back later. Sometimes sheep will stop you in your road, and you can't get to the wedding on time, but you get there eventually. There's times when you get up really early to obviously travel to the venue. And the reason behind this, I think this is important and kind of not to be missed and not skip over. But the reason I get to venues a lot of the time very early, more often than not, most people, because when I have this conversation with photographers, they're shocked. They're like, "Why are you going so early?" And everyone says to me, "Why have you left so early?" One, it's to beat the traffic. If there's any traffic at any point, whether it be a weekday or weekend, you beat the traffic, especially if you're going on a longer journey. Two, if you get to the venue early, you can scout the whole venue. There's plenty of apps in this day and age that you can look where the sun's rising, sun's setting, where the sun and the light's going to be. So you can kind of visually map in your head when you get to the venue of, okay, we're going to do the groups here if the lighting's in this position. We're going to do the groups here if the light's in this position. If we come out of the ceremony, this is where we're going to do the confetti because we know it's going to work lighting-wise. And obviously, I know things like that can change on a wedding day. So it's all kind of visually mind mapped in your head of what you're doing throughout the day. Where can you do the couple shots? If the sun's going to set, if it's not going to set at all, what else can we do? Where's the light going to come in through a window? There's so many variables that obviously that you can plan for. It doesn't always go to plan, but at least you're kind of one step ahead. So I get there really early. Sometimes before the couples actually get to the venue, I'm there obviously saying hi to the vendors, hi to the staff, even the people that open the doors and cleaning the building beforehand. I'm speaking with them. And that comes back tenfold because then they refer you as well to other couples, which is nice. So literally, I make sure when I get in the car, and I double check this, and most photographers do this, I get in the car, get halfway to the wedding and stop, and make sure that I've still got my equipment in the back of the car, because you think you've got your camera, you never do. So obviously when I get there, like I said, I always say hi to everybody at the venue. Obviously build good connections with people. Like I said, I check out all the lighting scenarios, all the locations within the venue. I speak to the coordinators or whoever's there, see what we can access as certain parts of the venue. Because sometimes if you're nice, they'll say to you, hey, you can use this part of the venue or this part, or you can't use this part. There was one time where the coordinator said, oh, and obviously I wouldn't have known if I didn't ask. Basically, we ended up with a small little door up these little windy staircase up this tiny, literally it could only just fit me through. And we managed to go on the roof of the building. It was sunset on the roof of the building. So it's like kind of one of those old school movies where you get to go on like the rooftops at sunset. It was really nice, but we wouldn't have known if I didn't speak to the coordinator beforehand. And obviously plan around the lighting. So for me, that part of the planning is really important because at the end of the day, I'm always one step ahead of the wedding, like the time frames, the lighting, what's going to happen on the day. But like as a typical wedding day, like I said, it varies from person to person and wedding to wedding. But for me, like I said, to get there, do the prep, get all that covered. It's probably about 95%. I don't intrude on the wedding in that aspect. There might be a few times where I adjust the couple per the best lighting. Obviously, we go down to do the ceremony. Like I said, I very rarely interfere with anything to do with that. Obviously, I arrange the confetti for them. But the thing that I've found best when I'm working with the couples, I never say to them, I'm going to set this exact time frame to get the best couple photos with you. All I say to them in the pre-meeting before the wedding, I say, hey, if an opportunity arises, it's a 5-minute opportunity. Do you want to go and have these photographs now? So I break it up into like 5-minute segments throughout the day. And that way they're happy because they feel like they've been with the guests and the family, and they also get great photos. But what they don't realize is over time, you've probably accumulated 5 of those 5 minutes to work with them at the most crucial parts of the day. So you're getting the best lighting, the best environments, because I've already pre-planned it. The best scenarios. Obviously, things happen naturally as well, so you get those moments, of course. But all the way throughout the day, there's those 5 segments, and then it goes into the evening. You can do obviously off-camera flash work, which is good. But like I say, all the way throughout the day, it's just those 5 minutes, little segments, if you like, where we're getting the best photographs for the couple. But yeah, we do the confetti after the ceremony, purely for the fact that everybody's already in the same space at once. From there, we go roll onto the groups because nobody can go off to the toilet or to the bar, which is a nice flow. Once you've got all the groups done, you've literally got every time. I can say the ceremony is at 2, you've got the rest of the day to do any couple photos. So if it's really nicely in line with that 5-minute segments, because they still feel like they're talking to the guests, and you're like, okay, that's 5 minutes here. There's a rainbow. Let's go. And like, yeah, let's do it. And then they go back. They never get fed up, and it's worked for me. Like I said, for 12 plus years of doing it that way. Of course, there's been adaptations of how we've done things and how things have changed, and obviously cameras have changed and editing flows have changed. But that whole flow throughout the day has served me well for 12 years. Like I said, there's a few changes that we've had over the time, but that core base of how things have worked really nicely.
Interesting. So I definitely understand the workflow when it comes to prep, and then also taking photos of different type of scenes, and then covering all of those family members with best light and best scouting of the places. What happens after the shoot is done, and what about your way of delivery? Like, what is the step from, okay, now I'm done with my shoot, now it's the delivery time? What does that process look like?
First, I go home and go to sleep. So yeah, go home, go to sleep. And the first thing I do is back it up. Obviously, back up to all my hard drives. I never shoot over the memory cards until the wedding's delivered. Obviously, take them straight into Filter Pixel, get the culling done. Because I think in this day and age, and you'll probably understand this as well, and many others watching, that we live in a very, I call it the 3-second world, where everything has to be not instant, but it has to be a good turnaround time, good delivery. That's what makes people happy. People have still got, and I think that's where things like Filter Pixel are helping massively, because there's a big buzz around weddings straight after them. If you're delivering photos too many months down the line, a lot of the time that buzz is gone. And that's when you don't get reviews, and that's when you don't get referrals and things like that. So for me, get them into Filter Pixel. Like I said, back them up, get them into Filter Pixel, save the memory cards aside till I know that the wedding is delivered. Once you're in Filter Pixel, get the deep cull through, and then analyze the photos of how I think it's done generally. And on the whole, it does a great job. Obviously, we'll see that in a little bit. But for me, I know that once they're in there, it's done a core amount of the work. It's not going to do all of it for me, of course, because that's the nature of the beast, as you say. But it does a large amount of that work for me. And there's an interesting test that I did. I actually went, obviously, from doing this kind of workflow back to a normal workflow, like old school workflow, if you like. And it was an astronomical difference, right? It's a massive difference. And you don't realize, even it doesn't get everything perfect with Filter Pixel all the time. Like, it doesn't get absolutely everything. You don't realize, like I said, with those 5-minute segments of photos, how much you're accumulating. What you don't realize is with Filter Pixel, all the minutes it's saving over a whole gallery. For me, that's one of the time saving attributes it's got as well, because when I went back to doing it manually, you actually didn't realize how much slower it is compared to how you're doing it with Filter Pixel. And I think that's huge. So sometimes you might need to, if you're using softwares like Filter Pixel, give yourselves a reality check. Go back to doing it manually and see how much slower it was, and how much we've been kind of blessed with having this kind of software around to help us more. So yeah, obviously then I take it to the editing, get the editing done, and get the galleries out as fast as possible to couples. That varies a little bit from time frames, depending on if I'm shooting a wedding or how many weddings I'm shooting or what I'm doing in my personal life. But I can guarantee you the turnaround time is a lot quicker using it.
This is quite interesting because I also feel like, while this is a strong workflow that you have built over the past few years, but still every wedding is very different. And, from the clients to the venue, to the timeline, to the lighting, to the culture, how do you adapt your shooting approach from one wedding to another? And what are you constantly thinking about throughout the day?
To be fair, like over the years, you kind of learn to understand how to shoot for your editing and how to shoot for your culling process. Like you kind of know what works and what doesn't work, and I think that's important as well, because you can shoot really bad, and it'd be a lot more difficult in like the editing or the culling. But if you shoot consistently, it helps a lot in the workflow after. And I think that's something that I've improved and adapted and changed a lot in the future, for the future as well. So I think that's helped a lot.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip for people who think like AI does not work for them. It's because the consistency really matters. The amount of data you have, the way you train the AI with that data is really important, because if you don't have consistency, there's no pattern. And what are you asking a system to learn then? Very
Yeah,
important point.
yeah,
You just
you have to be. You have to be, don't you? You have to be. It's not. I wouldn't say like AI is a magic fix that's going to make you a great photographer. You still have to get the core fundamentals and basics correct, and get that consistency base all the way through. And this will push you along even further. It's like putting some speed skates on, and you get to go a lot quicker. But ultimately, you have to be consistent with the actual shooting on the day itself, and it'll help your results massively after with the AI. So,
let's talk about the part most photographers spend hours on afterwards, the culling, ah, and the editing process. Like before using Deep Cull, what did your post pairing workflow look like? And then how has your workflow changed since you started using it?
the posts like before, obviously using Filter Pixel, it's kind of I used to upload it to Lightroom, and obviously manually cull. I had like this system going on, but as most people know, Lightroom's really slow, and it has bugs, and you end up losing your marbles and want to throw things out of the window and throw your computer out of the window. And like I said, this is why I gave myself a reality check going back to manual, like how it used to be before, because when you go to things like the deep cull, you realize in comparison how much quicker it is. So like literally, I put them into Lightroom, I cull through all obviously the photos, but you had to go through everyone. So for example, if you had a gallery of like 5,000-6,000 photos, you'd have to go through all the photos and obviously minutely look at them all, and there might be some adjustments in them. And then when it came to editing, even if you did a batch edit of having, for example, let's say, for example, the same preset. Okay, you put the same preset on, you'd batch edit, but yet you'd have different white balances from churches to outside. You'd have different lighting scenarios. You have different skin tones. You'd have so many different variables that you still have to go through and adjust everything. And obviously, with the AI, it gets those core basics right. Yes, you have to go in and adjust a few little bits and bobs. But like I said, on the whole, you're saving so much time per photo with the culling and the editing that saves hours and days of editing.
Yeah, I would like you, if you can, show us one of your projects, to the audience on how you use Cull, and then maybe they will take some inspiration when they go back and try to do a project just like you. So I'm gonna bring your screen in front, and you can just discuss how you approach with deep culling.
Okay, fab. So can you see this okay?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, cool. So obviously you've got the all section here in the top right. This is just all the photos, and obviously by all means hop in if you want to, Aisha, as well, and obviously give some input because this is your jam. But it obviously it breaks them down into the sections, and this is what I like. It never gets rid of any photos, so they're always there. So don't feel panicked that obviously it's getting rid of any photos. For me, this one had 7,132 photos, and it picked 2,005 of the best of the variables. Now, for me, like I said, I like lots of different variables to choose from initially, which I don't mind going through. But for me, in this gallery especially, what made me the most happy was the variety it gave and the consistency it gave throughout the gallery. As you can see, it's not just picking the same photos over and over and over and over again, the exact same photos. It's giving variables, as you can see, and then it'll give you a few. And the thing that it picks up on, and most people won't notice this, it picks up on the storytelling more often in this program than any that I've seen. And obviously, I know that you're big on this as well, aren't you, Aish?
Yeah, it's like if we double click any photo, like it's kind of like a score at the top, which it tells like why it is picking such a photo. Like this is something which is very unique, and I myself love it because it's not about just like picking a photo. It's also about giving it a reasoning, like why you are picking it. It's not like just blurry or blink. It's way more than that. It's like just using it or opening it in a fully screen mode. You see like everything, every score of it. Uh, and I think that's like AI analysis where it says like at the top like what it is looking into the photo. I think that's the most important part where I think people will trust over the process, and it's like not a black box anymore. It's like the AI working with them together to understand their way of work and make them a better photographer as well, not only just like helping them to sit down.
Yeah, and like I said, it gives you the variety, but it gives you the reason why. And I think it touches back onto the point of, when like you kind of interlink when you're shooting to when you're editing, it starts to give you a good indication of not only lighting but what photos work to tell the story. Do you know what I mean? So it's helping in that aspect as well, which has been obviously really pleasing for me to see, because you get, like I said, you get lots of different varieties of photos, lots of different emotions. Even if it's, like I said, the same scenario, there's different angles, different variants, different little details that you see on the cufflinks here. So there's a whole variety in there. But when it usually obviously rejects photos,
Yeah.
it's done like here, it picked up all the ones that obviously these are out of focus. Just double clicking on here.
Yeah, it's like we can see it also gives a reason here, I guess, on why it is rejecting this photo.
Yeah, it's this is what I mean. It picks out why, and obviously like even the storytelling, there's so many varieties and there's better versions. Obviously, we saw some of these earlier.
Yeah.
It's just giving better versions, and I think it saves so much time. I could go on.
One of the part I would like to add is, even if there is something in the rejected which you like it's very easy to take it back, like because you don't need to like just at a quick glance of what it has rejected. Some people want control over the process. They might not agree with every choice which is rejected, which is totally fine. Like generally, you don't find such a photo in the rejected section, but still, even if you find it, it's like very easy to right click and take it back to mark it as accepted or mark it as best. It's like, okay, cool. I still want to take it. I still feel like this can be an important part maybe in the future. It may not be the part in this particular delivery, but maybe a part in the future, like taking any photo out. Like, so it is still easy.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is easy just to put them back in as well. Even if it doesn't 100% hit the mark with it, there's still options to put them back in. Obviously, you've got the reviewed section. Like I said, this is essentially cut the workflow more than in half.
Yeah, I can see that. And yeah,
which is
especially for weddings, high volume, crazy weddings.
Yeah, and people want them the return back quicker now. It's the world that we live in. It's how they're like, can we have them back now? When's the previews? Even if you get previews out to them like in the next 48 hours, they're like, whoa, it just takes a little bit of pressure off you. But I think with Filter Pixel, for me, the culling is unmatched from what I've used. I've used a lot of AI systems, but Filter Pixel culling's been unmatched. It gives me the variety, it gives me the speed that I wanted to choose. Heck, I could even go in and manually cull if I wanted to, and it'd be a lot quicker than any other platform. But chucking in with the AI, it's astronomically better. I've had no issues with it. It's absolutely been fantastic from my end, and the workflow, like I said, it's given me back so many hours, so many minutes. Delivery time to clients has been fantastic. So it's given me my own time back and my family time, which I can then obviously do things with my family, or I can work on taking more bookings because I can fit more bookings in.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree that, if you just save time here, it's a crucial part of your business where you can spend it back. And I think that's where most of the experienced photographers, they understand it quite quicker than the newbies, that time is money. And it's like, if you just save time in the post production, you have a lot of the time to invest to get more clients, to build better relationships, or to just look at the marketing, like look at the business angle of rather than the editing and the post production angle where you have to sit in front of the computer and just spend your entire days.
Yeah, well, when you get to a certain stage as well, especially when it gets like the peak of summer, and especially when it's been like as hot as it has been in the UK today, like sometimes you find yourself like sitting in front of the computer all the time, like another gallery, another gallery, another gallery, another gallery. But this is actually really, really helpful. Like I said, it speeds things up, and the consistency. The thing that I find, obviously, as a human, your consistency can drop. Your work ethic can drop because you're doing it over and over and over, and it's only natural. That can drop, whereas this helps and picks you up and complements what you're doing in your style as well. Especially that when it comes to the editing, it's not something that's taken over completely. It's still your style, but you have to shoot consistently for it, and that's how you compare it all together. But like I said, with the deep culling, nobody likes culling. Like you ask any photographer out there, it's like, what do you like the least? And everyone's like culling, because it's monotonous, it's boring. Everyone that likes boring. So this has been amazing for me. Like I said, it's given me so much time back to do what I want and put where I want. Whether it be like you said, marketing, or whether it be to just watch a TV show in the evening, which I can. So thank you from me. It's been a massive help.
Oh, my team will be so proud after hearing this. I think one of the interesting things is when you see the impact you're able to create in somebody's life, by doing such a work. And I appreciate all of your words and all of your feedback. I also know, like, because you have so much experience, I keep telling people who are watching this live, like somebody who's having 12 years of industry experience, is using AI to automate their workflow. So there must be something they should look at. There must be something here, rather than just being so stubborn about, I'm not going to use AI, or I'm not going to change. I'm not open to change. If you don't open to change, you're a dinosaur. You will become dinosaur and finally
Yeah.
will go out of the world. So just moving forward, on the same lines which we talked about, what do you think separates a good wedding photographer from a truly successful one? And how important are communication, reliability, consistency, client experience, or even fast delivery?
Yeah, for me, consistency is one of the crucial things. You've got to be doing the things, the basics all the time. Sometimes people veer away from, like you said, even with AI. That's there now. We've got to use it as technology. Like when things went mirrorless, people went to mirrorless. This is coming around now. People are going to have to adapt and change to it and evolve. You can still have your core basics in. You can still do your things in your own way, but it's It's not to take over it. It's just to give you an assistance and move forwards a lot better, to give your clients a better experience. Ultimately, and I think at the forefront of our mind, everything should be about how we make our clients feel, not just giving them great photos, but how can we make them feel in the process from the start to the finish. And I think that comes with your first communication to how you are with them on the day, not just giving them good photos on the day, but how you're creating the photos with them, how you're making them feel. I'm always big on how you make people feel on the day. I've seen great photos taken, but how have you made them feel in that moment? Can you make them feel themselves, and make them feel ultra special in that moment? And then how can you make them feel after? If you can get a gallery out to them really quickly and they wasn't expecting them, and you said, hey, my delivery time's 8 weeks, and you give it them in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it may be on your situation, they're going to be over the moon with you. They're going to give you reviews and recommend you. You can also get those galleries to venues a lot quicker, and they're like, wow, that gallery's come around quick, and we can share it with the venue, and the venue then recommend you. So it all has this domino effect of, if you be positive, hold consistency, hold standards to what you do, and have that interaction, and just be clear with your clients. Give realistic timeframes, and just give them a good experience, make them feel good.
Yeah, and you touched a very important point, like the referral system, which is very important in this particular part of photography, and making sure that you're not just impressing the client, but also you are having good relations, good communication, good experience with everyone who was there in the venue chain, including the person who is the venue owner, or someone who is a part of this ecosystem and was there at the event, because you don't know even from where that referral is coming. So your communication, your consistency, the way you create that experience, the way you deliver those photos, the fast you deliver those photos, everything seems to matter here.
Yeah, I think as well, like, on the day, like everyone, sometimes in the industry, it's like the photographer's meant to be better than the videographer, and they should take like hierarchy over them and them and them and them. But I think if you're all a team together, it helps a couple more, and everyone benefits from it then.
Yeah, 100%. So over the last 12 years, how has your workflow evolved? I know your story of using Lightroom and then using Deep Cull, but like, what is one part of your process that you used to spend a huge amount of time on, but then have found more efficient way to handle?
I would definitely say the editing. For me, that's, like I said, the more that you shoot, the more that you can get a backlog, and that's not something that you want. You need to keep on top of that, because you can soon tot up. And sometimes what people don't realize is, even if like going from not a newbie, but somebody who's not got many weddings, and then all of a sudden you get weddings, you think, oh, that's great, I'll keep booking more. But then they don't realize the workflow process after.
Yeah.
And that's where they come unstuck. And then they're like, okay, now I've done all that work. Now I'm behind with the editing. Now my work times are getting a lot slower to go with work out. Then I forget to do my marketing, and now I've got no bookings for the year after. So for me, especially, and I think this is for a lot of photographers now, things have gone to mirrorless, especially where you can see photos in camera. More people are a bit more click happy, take more photos. Mm-hmm. The editing workflow is more crucial.
Yeah. It's like a system. If you don't have a system, you cannot scale your business.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, it's got to be the editing, it's got to be the culling, it's got to be the editing, the back end workflows, because I think those are the things where you can get a little bit stuck. And like I said, this has helped me massively, and that's somebody that's been in the industry. I've seen a lot of things change. Like I said, mirrorless cameras have come out, different specs of cameras and lenses and equipment and presets have come around the block and things like that. But this has kind of changed how the industry moves, if you like, in a positive way. Like you said, people might become dinosaurs. I think it's here for a long, long time. And instead of being against it, I think it's important people use it to their advantage. You can still hold the core basics of what you do and give a great client experience to photos. You can still have the exact same editing, style. It's not like it's taking it away. It's just enhancing it and making it more consistent.
100%.
And that's the way that I see it.
I feel like culling and editing are definitely something that people should look into when it comes to the workflow automation, and definitely should at least try that out, because that can change the way they work, that can reimagine their way of working if they're still doing it manually, still using some tools to go through manually, even the editing process, even the culling process. Come on, it's 2026. That's not the right way. AI has moved a lot, and photographers have learned like how to use it now, and they are actually on it. They have seen all of it, and they are like the good and the best photographer. There's a huge difference now. So just want to take a few points from you as well, as we wrap up, for photographers who are looking to build a career in wedding photography industry today. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
Good question. I would say not to listen to everybody else that spreads bad things about one particular thing. Give everything a shot for yourself. Because I think there's so much. One person will say one thing in the industry, like, "Oh, this doesn't work," or "This is not right," or "You shouldn't be doing this." Like for me personally, this is just talking from my personal experience. I started doing double exposure, right? And everyone, you might have seen some of the work in obviously some of my stories, and everyone said to me, "Don't do them. They're from the 80s." I did one, and I did one photo, and this is something. Well, I actually did a few of them, and they were all rubbish, right? And I kept doing them, even though everybody says stop doing them. I got like everybody in there, all the photo groups said to me, "Look, they're rubbish. Don't do them. You shouldn't be taking photos." And I did one, and I did another at a wedding. It's rubbish, and it looked rubbish. And I did another rubbish one, and I tried and I practiced at home, and I did one photo at a wedding. I had one idea in mind. I tried it. I did it, and that booked me 90% of my weddings.
Oh my God.
That one
Wow.
photo, and every couple now, even from the day that started to now, ask for that exact photo at every wedding.
That's crazy.
And I
That's really
think,
cool.
yeah, I think for me, and I think for everybody else, is do what you think's right for you. And I think that should go to everything. You shouldn't just go, okay, well, someone said don't do this because I've heard somebody says this. Give it a shot for yourself. Just
Yeah.
do it. Put your own spin on it. It's like if somebody says, hey, Sony cameras are rubbish. Try Sony camera for yourself and do it, or try AI for yourself and just do it. And stick with
Yeah.
it. Stay consistent, and then define your craft around it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think like the word right now is so influential that people just perceive the information given by someone and they feel like that's right without even giving a try. They just make an opinion and form an opinion about it, and then they stop trying because it's very easy to stop trying. It's it's the most
Yeah,
easiest thing you can do. I would not try this because someone said it. Don't try it.
yeah, yeah. It's true. But unless you unless you try it out for yourself, you'll never know. So give it a shot. Stay consistent with it, and just give it 100% of your energy. If it doesn't work after that, then at least you've given it 100% of what you've got.
Yeah, at least you hit your failure yourself, and then you're so proud about it that you gave it a try.
Yeah, you've got to give everything a shot. Give it everything you've got, and that's all you can give.
Sure. Thank you so much, James, for your amazing session today. And I think there is a lot to learn from this. And thank you so much for all answering all those questions. And they will going to add a lot of value for our audience who is going to see this live. And I will let you leave now for your work. But I really appreciate your time and energy that you have given to us today.
You're welcome, buddy. Thank you for your time as well. Thank you for letting me come on.
Okay, thank you.
Catch you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. So this was James, and you have seen like how effective he is in his workflow from the point he starts shooting to the point he's culling and editing and delivering those galleries and not maintaining much of the backlog. Now it has definitely taken 12 years of experience to do that. But the only takeaway, like there are so many takeaways in this session when you go through, but the most important takeaway for me was at the last question where you said that you should try it yourself rather than forming an opinion without trying. And he has a proof of that. He has done the same kind of editing, which his friend said not to do. So I feel like things are very important when you try them to understand them well, rather than just forming an opinion by an influencer or by someone in your friend circle. And with that, we will wrap up this session. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, you can comment in the comment box, and you can also email us for anything like that. Till the next CullRoom session. Bye.